A forgotten material forged by cosmic fire once powered entire ancient civilizations. This is the story of desert glass, a substance so rare it was valued more than gold. And you are about to discover the true extent of its power. By the end, you will understand how a simple piece of natural glass became the hidden engine behind technological revolutions from Egypt to Mesopotamia. Why did our ancestors scour vast deserts for these glittering fragments? And what forgotten secrets about their ingenuity are we still uncovering today? What does it truly mean to hold a piece of the stars in your hand? A flash of cosmic violence is frozen in time within every fragment of desert glass. That initial moment of creation was a cataclysm of almost incomprehensible power. A meteorite traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour did not merely strike the ground, it vaporized upon impact. The energy released in that instant was greater than a nuclear detonation, superheating the very air and sand to temperatures that rival the surface of the sun. Under this hellish inferno, the pristine quartz sand of the desert did not melt slowly, it transformed instantly. The silica minerals were fused into a new, pure substance, a natural glass that we now call Libyan desert glass. Within its structure, scientists find a telltale signature of this origin, a mineral known as lecitlerite. This form of silica glass does not occur in volcanoes or forest fires. It only appears when temperatures soar beyond 1,700 degrees Celsius, a heat so intense it can only be delivered from beyond our world. So the next time you see an image of this glass, do not just see a pretty stone. You are looking at the permanent scar of a planetary collision, a piece of the desert forever altered by a visitor from the depths of space. How then did the first human beings to wander these barren landscapes come across these glittering, otherworldly treasures? What stories did they tell themselves when they held a material born from a force they could not possibly comprehend? Their interpretations would shape the destiny of empires. That first glimmer of light on the sand must have stopped someone in their tracks. Picture a lone traveler, feet sinking into the endless dunes, their world composed of wind, sun, and dust. Their eyes, accustomed to the muted tones of the desert, would have been arrested by a sharp, clear sparkle. Reaching down, their fingers would not close around a rough, heavy stone, but around something smooth, surprisingly light, and cool to the touch. It was a material that felt alien in its perfection. This was not a rock shaped by slow river water or volcanic fury. This was something else entirely. Archaeological finds tell us this scene played out countless times. In the vastness of the Libyan desert and scattered across ancient Egypt, evidence shows that people as far back as the last ice age were picking up these strange, glassy pieces. At first, it was pure utility. A sharp edge was a precious commodity. This glass could be knapped, shaped into a fine blade or a scraper that was sharper than any flint they could find. It was a tool born from the sky, a cutting edge gifted by the stars, but its value quickly transcended the practical. How could such a beautiful, transparent substance simply lie on the ground, waiting to be found? It defied all logic, so the human mind, seeking answers, wove stories. These were not mere stones, they were the tears of gods shed during cosmic sorrow. They were star stones, solid fragments of the night sky that had fallen to earth. Bedouin oral traditions passed down through generations speak of great battles fought in the heavens, with shards of celestial glass raining down as a result. They did not have the science to understand a meteorite impact, but they understood power and they understood divinity. This glass possessed both. It was harder than most stones, it could hold an edge, and it captured light in a way that seemed magical. What began as accidental treasure hunts soon became purposeful journeys. People began to know where to look, to seek out these glittering fragments deliberately. They were collected not just for blades, but for ceremony, for protection, for connection to a world beyond their own. The systematic use of desert glass was beginning, setting the stage for its journey into the very heart of the world's first great civilizations. Deep within its honey-colored clarity lies a structure that baffled early scientists. In the laboratory, under the powerful gaze of microscopes, desert glass reveals its secrets. It possesses the transparent beauty of pure quartz, yet it shares the tough, dense nature of obsidian. This is a hybrid material, born from an event too violent for ordinary geology. The key to its perfection is the speed of its creation. When that meteorite struck, the sand did not just melt, it was flash-fused. There was no time for air bubbles to form or for impurities to gather. The result is a glass of astonishing purity, hard enough to scratch steel and capable of being shaped into an edge finer than any metal tool of its era. Its chemical signature tells a vivid story, a high silica content infused with traces of iron that gift it that distinctive, warm, honey-to-greenish glow. And when a skilled hand strikes it, it doesn't just crack, it fractures in a perfect conchoidal pattern. This means it breaks in smooth, curved layers, much like the inside of a seashell, allowing artisans to flake it off into razor-sharp blades and points with incredible control. This combination of qualities is not just rare, it is almost unique in the natural world. Vast fields of ordinary sand were transformed in an instant, yet today, significant deposits of this glass are found only in one specific, remote part of the Great Sand Sea. For ancient peoples, this was not a common stone. It was a finite, precious resource, a technological gift from the cosmos itself. So how did the first engineers and artists apply this otherworldly material to the problems of their world? The leap from recognizing its properties to harnessing them would change the course of ancient technology. That hardness, a 5.5 on the Mohs scale, was not just a number, it was a revolutionary advantage in a world of stone and bone. While a flint blade would dull after slicing through tough animal hide, a blade fashioned from desert glass would retain its lethal edge through repeated use. This was a profound shift in daily life. An artisan could spend less time constantly resharpening their tools and more time actually using them. Hunters could rely on their arrowheads to penetrate deeper and their knives to clean game more efficiently. The evidence for this technological leap is etched into the artifacts themselves. At prehistoric sites across North Africa, archaeologists have unearthed not just crude shards, but finely worked scrapers, elegant knives, and deadly projectile points, all carved from this celestial material. Some of the tools discovered in Egypt have been traced back to the late Stone Age, proving this was not a fleeting experiment, but a sustained technological tradition spanning millennia. This was more than just a better tool, it was a force multiplier. It made communities more effective at securing food, processing materials, and crafting goods. But such a powerful substance could never remain a simple utilitarian object. Its very origin, wrapped in myth, and its performance, far beyond any local stone, imbued it with a prestige that transformed it into a social and economic asset. Why would a chieftain or a priest want to use a common flint knife when they could wield a blade forged from the heavens? The possession of a desert glass tool became a symbol of status, a clear indicator of someone with access to distant, powerful resources. This inherent value did not go unnoticed. It sparked the first economic networks, drawing traders and explorers into the most inhospitable deserts on a quest for this glittering gold. The movement of desert glass from its remote source to the workshops of emerging civilizations would create a web of influence and exchange that stretched for thousands of miles. A warrior gripping a dagger of desert glass held more than a weapon, he held a statement. The blade's edge, born from a star's fury, was unnaturally sharp and rigid, capable of slicing through leather armor and inflicting wounds that were both deep and clean. While a bronze blade could bend and dull in the heat of battle, this glass weapon retained its lethal perfection. Historical analysis of elite Mesopotamian and early Egyptian troops points to this reality. Spear tips and ceremonial knives fashioned from this material were not for the common soldier. They were the exclusive arms of chieftains and generals. To wield such a weapon was to announce your connection to a power beyond the earthly realm, a divine right to command written in celestial stone. The value of these arms was amplified by their scarcity. A desert glass blade was never a mass-produced tool of war. It was a rare artifact, often reserved for ritualistic duels between leaders or placed as a grave offering to protect a king in the afterlife. This martial application pushed ancient artisans to new heights of innovation. They had to master the precise flaking techniques to shape the glass without shattering it, creating forms that maximized its strength. How did the demand for such prestigious weapons transform the deserts of Libya and Egypt? The quest for this celestial stone ignited the first great trade networks, pulling people across vast and deadly sands in pursuit of a material worth more than gold. A single fragment of desert glass could purchase a merchant's spices for a year or a bolt of the finest linen. Its value was not just symbolic, it was a tangible, high-stakes currency in the bustling markets of the ancient world. Caravans, sometimes hundreds of camels strong, would brave the searing emptiness of the great sand sea, their sole purpose to reach the known strewn fields where this celestial glass lay scattered like diamonds on the sand. These were not casual journeys, they were perilous commercial expeditions funded by kings and wealthy merchants who understood the immense return on their investment. The trade routes they forged became the economic arteries of the Bronze Age, directly linking the remote Libyan desert to the thriving Nile Valley and the powerful city-states of Mesopotamia. Archaeological proof of this network is etched into the landscape itself. At way stations and ports along the Nile, excavators have found nodules of raw desert glass alongside ingots of copper and piles of pottery, all waiting to be loaded onto boats heading north. Even more telling are the finished artifacts discovered far from home. A beautifully crafted desert glass scraper found in a Levantine tomb, for instance, tells a silent story of a long chain of hand-to-hand exchanges, moving from the desert to the coast and across the sea. Historical records from Egypt whisper of this trade, with some scholars suggesting that the famed stone of the sun mentioned in certain texts was in fact this revered material. The economic shockwaves were profound. Tribes who controlled the source regions gained immense influence, while middlemen in oasis towns grew wealthy simply for facilitating the trade. But this movement of goods was never just about economics. With every caravan came not only glass but also stories, religious ideas, and new techniques. A toolmaker in Mesopotamia might see a unique Egyptian design on a traded piece and incorporate it into his own work. The desert glass trade became a silent, glittering river of cultural exchange. Yet for all its economic power, its ultimate value was often displayed not in a merchant's strongbox, but on the body of a queen or in the sanctuary of a temple. Its journey from raw cosmic fragment to polished object of beauty and devotion reveals the deepest reason for its timeless allure. The hands of an ancient artisan carefully shaped the glass, not into a tool, but into a symbol of divine protection. They saw in its golden translucency a captured piece of the sun's own light, a quality that made it the perfect medium for sacred art. In the workshops of Egypt, craftsmen carved this celestial material into scarab beetles, each intricate line on the beetle's back representing rebirth and the eternal cycle of the sun. These amulets were not mere decorations, they were functional objects of faith, placed over the heart of a mummy to ensure safe passage into the afterlife. Others were shaped into the form of a wedged eye, the powerful eye of Horus, believed to ward off evil and bring healing. To wear a piece of desert glass carved with this symbol was to carry a permanent, watchful guardian against the darkness. The material itself was part of the magic. When sunlight passed through one of these carved amulets, it would glow with an internal, honey-colored fire, a visible manifestation of the divine power it was thought to contain. This glowing property made it a favorite offering in temples, a direct line of communication to gods like Ra. How did this artistic use shape religious experience? A priest holding a desert glass ritual object wasn't just holding a beautiful stone, he was channeling the cosmos. The very substance of the artifact, born from a starfall, confirmed its sacred nature. This deep spiritual connection ensured that the most exquisite pieces were reserved for kings and high priests, solidifying their status as intermediaries between the people and the gods. The journey of desert glass was leading it from the marketplace and the battlefield into the most intimate spaces of human belief, setting the stage for its most profound and enduring legacy. Within the silent chambers of an ancient Egyptian temple, a high priest lifts a ceremonial bowl carved from desert glass. Sunlight, filtered through a high slit in the stone, strikes the vessel and it ignites, glowing with a deep, internal golden light. To the assembled worshippers, this was not a trick of the light. It was a visible manifestation of the sun god Ra himself, his divine energy captured and channeled through this celestial stone. The cosmic origin of desert glass was its entire spiritual resume. Because it was born from a star fall, it was naturally seen as a direct fragment of the heavens, a physical bridge between the earthly realm and the domain of the gods. This belief was not confined to Egypt. Across North Africa and the Near East, this material was incorporated into the most sacred rituals. It was placed on altars as a conduit for prayer, used in divination rites to glimpse the future, and carefully positioned in graves to act as a beacon, guiding the soul through the terrifying darkness of the underworld. The most powerful example comes from the tombs of pharaohs. Tutankhamun himself was buried with a magnificent scarab pectoral, its centerpiece a flawless piece of this golden glass. This was not merely a piece of jewelry, it was a functional tool for resurrection, its purpose to harness the power of the sun to ensure the king's rebirth in the afterlife. Anthropologists studying these practices have found evidence that the glass was often anointed with precious oils or even gently heated during ceremonies. The warmth would release the fragrance of the oils, but it would also make the glass itself seem to come alive, its surface shimmering in the ritual firelight, enhancing its perceived potency. This sacred use was a powerful reinforcer of social order. Access to such a rare, cosmically charged material was never for the common person. It was exclusively for the pharaoh, the high priests, and the royal family. By controlling the desert glass, they controlled the pathway to the gods, solidifying their divine right to rule. How then did these powerful beliefs, so tied to forgotten empires, manage to survive the collapse of those very civilizations? Their echoes traveled on, woven into the fabric of myth and whispered in the stories of later cultures, who still sensed the strange power held within this glass born from the stars. The legends whispered around campfires often held more truth than anyone could have guessed. For centuries, the nomadic peoples of the desert spoke of the Stone of Light, a substance they called Al-Hajar al-Nuri. In their tales, this was no ordinary rock. It was a creation of the jinn, powerful desert spirits who forged it from captured starlight and lightning. These stories were more than simple entertainment. They were a way to package and preserve crucial knowledge. A legend claiming the glass could glow with an inner light might have been an attempt to describe its remarkable translucency when held to a fire. A story about it warding off evil spirits could easily have stemmed from observing its practical use as a protective amulet that was, quite literally, harder than most malicious forces it might encounter. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder, in his vast encyclopedic work, documented similar materials which he called fulgurites and correctly attributed their origin to lightning strikes that fused sand. While he may not have identified the specific cosmic impact that created desert glass, his writings show that the ancient world was actively trying to rationalize these mysterious substances, placing them firmly in the category of celestial events. This blending of observable fact and mythological explanation served a vital purpose. It encoded the glass's real properties, its hardness, its clarity, its rarity, within a memorable and sacred narrative. This ensured that the knowledge of where to find it and how to value it was passed down through countless generations, long after the original reason for its creation was forgotten. So how does this ancient folklore stand up to the cold, hard light of modern science? The contrast is not as stark as you might think. The old stories spoke of a stone born from fire in the sky, and our laboratories have confirmed that this is, in essence, precisely what happened. The jinn's lightning has been replaced by the unimaginable violence of a meteorite impact, but the core truth remains the same. The glass is a child of the heavens. This fascinating intersection of myth and reality is what drives researchers today, pushing them to ask if the ancients, in their own way, understood the true nature of this material all along. The old stories of celestial fire were a premonition, a poetic understanding waiting for the tools of science to confirm their truth. Inside a modern laboratory, a fragment of desert glass is placed under the electron microscope. The machine reveals a hidden world, a landscape of fused silica that tells a story of instantaneous, violent creation. This is where ancient myth meets empirical fact. Researchers use instruments like mass spectrometry to read the glass chemical autobiography, searching for elements that have no business being in ordinary sand. They find them the definitive signatures of an impact, elevated levels of iridium, an element rare on Earth's surface but common in meteorites, are a dead giveaway. Other extraterrestrial metals like nickel and cobalt are also present, trapped within the glass like cosmic fingerprints. These minute traces are the final proof that this material was forged in a collision between our world and a visitor from deep space. For instance, specific studies on Libyan desert glass have pinpointed its creation to around 29 million years ago, a date that aligns perfectly with evidence of a massive impact event in the Eastern Sahara. The analysis goes even deeper. By examining the precise ratios of different oxygen isotopes within the glass, scientists can even identify the type of meteorite responsible. The evidence strongly points to a chondrite, a stony meteorite that is one of the oldest and most primitive materials in our solar system. This research does more than just validate a cosmic origin story. It helps reconstruct the cataclysm itself, modeling the immense temperatures and pressures that reshaped the desert in a single, blinding instant. So what does this mean for our view of ancient technology? The confirmation is profound. Our ancestors, without a single piece of modern laboratory equipment, correctly identified this material as something otherworldly. They sensed its unique power, tested its physical properties through trial and error, and integrated it into the very fabric of their society. This was not superstition, it was a form of advanced material science. They recognized a superior substance and built economies, spiritual practices, and technologies around it. The scientific data now proves that their intuition was right all along. They were truly harnessing a piece of the cosmos. This realization forces us to look at other ancient mysteries with fresh eyes. If they were so perceptive about the potential of desert glass, what other lost knowledge might be waiting, hidden in plain sight within the artifacts they left behind? An artisan working with desert glass held a material that behaved unlike any other. Flint, the workhorse of the ancient world, was reliable and widely available, but its edge could grow dull with heavy use. Obsidian, another volcanic glass, could be knapped to an edge even sharper than steel, yet it was notoriously brittle, prone to chipping and shattering under stress. Desert glass occupied a perfect middle ground. It offered an edge nearly as sharp as obsidian, but with a crucial toughness that obsidian lacked. This superior edge retention meant a desert glass blade did not need constant resharpening, making it a more efficient and reliable tool over the long term. Its aesthetic qualities further set it apart. While obsidian is typically a deep, opaque black, desert glass glowed with a warm, honeyed translucence. It captured and softened light, giving finished objects a luminous quality that common stones could never achieve. This unique beauty, combined with its cosmic origin story, made it irresistible for high-status items. A chieftain might carry a flint axe for common tasks, but he would reserve his desert glass dagger for ceremonies and displays of power. Its scarcity dictated this hierarchy of use. Flint quarries and obsidian flows were known and could be mined, but desert glass was a finite resource, scattered by a single, ancient event. You could not mine for it, you could only patiently search the vast desert for what the sky had left behind. This very limitation forced ancient societies to be strategic and innovative in its application. In regions where it was accessible, it did not simply replace older technologies, it enhanced them. Archaeological digs from the Nile Valley to the Central Sahara reveal toolkits that are fascinating hybrids. A single wooden handle might be fitted with both a flint scraper for rough work and a slender, razor-sharp blade of desert glass for fine cutting or ceremonial use. This versatility allowed the material to fill specific niches that other resources could not. It became the precision instrument in a world of blunt tools, the jewel in a crown of common stone. How did this adaptability secure its place across millennia? The answer lies in its enduring presence. We find desert glass artifacts in late Stone Age sites, in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, and in Iron Age settlements, a timeline spanning thousands of years. Its appeal was not a fleeting trend, but a testament to a material whose unique combination of physical properties and mythical power remained unmatched by anything else the ancient world had to offer. That same hardness that created superior weapons also revolutionized the workshop. An artisan trying to carve a delicate pattern into a block of granite with a copper chisel would face a frustrating task, the soft metal blunting and deforming with every strike. But with a tipped drill or a scraper fashioned from desert glass, the same craftsman could work with a new kind of precision. The glass edge did not wear down easily. It bit into the hard stone with relentless efficiency, allowing for the creation of the impossibly fine hieroglyphs that cover Egyptian monuments and the intricate floral motifs found on Mesopotamian ivory. This was a fundamental shift in scale. Craftsmen were no longer limited by the shortcomings of their materials. They were empowered by a substance that could match the ambition of their designs. In specialized workshops, evidence suggests that glass-edged saws, their teeth set with tiny, sharp fragments, were used to slice through sheets of ivory and delicate types of stone. These were not crude tools, they were the precision instruments of their day, enabling a level of detail in jewelry making and inlay work that was previously unimaginable. Some of the most perfectly round beads and most finely carved seals from this period bear the microscopic marks of being worked by this celestial material. Beyond carving, the clarity of the glass opened another realm of possibility. While the evidence remains tantalizingly speculative, a carefully polished piece of desert glass could have functioned as a simple lens. A skilled priest or healer might have used it to focus the sun's rays to start a ritual fire, or perhaps even to magnify tiny objects for detailed work, an early step toward understanding optics. How did these specialized techniques travel from one civilization to the next? They moved along the same glittering highways as the raw glass itself. A master craftsman in Babylon might develop a novel method for setting glass chips into a bronze drill head. That tool, or the craftsman himself, could then travel with a merchant caravan to Egypt. There, local artisans would see the new technique, adapt it, and improve upon it, creating a feedback loop of innovation that spread across continents. The desert glass was more than a raw material. It was a vehicle for ideas, its very presence pushing the limits of ancient engineering and inspiring a legacy of craftsmanship whose finest examples still take our breath away. A piece of desert glass found in a Mesopotamian tomb could whisper a story of a journey that began in the Egyptian desert. This material did not travel alone. It moved along the great trade arteries of the ancient world, from the Nile River to the Incense Road, acting as a silent diplomat between cultures. When a merchant caravan arrived at a bustling port on the Mediterranean, its cargo of raw glass was not just a commodity, it was a catalyst. Local artisans would gather to inspect the strange, golden stones, and in doing so, they would exchange more than just goods. They shared techniques. An Egyptian method for pressure flaking a sharp edge might be demonstrated to a Levantine toolmaker, who would then combine it with his own people's style of hafting, creating a new hybrid tool design. This cross-pollination is etched into the artifacts we unearth today. Archaeologists find amulets in the shape of Egyptian scarabs, carved from desert glass in tombs far up the Syrian coast. Yet the style of the setting or the accompanying grave goods are distinctly local. This is not mere imitation, it is a genuine fusion, a sign that the symbolic power of the glass was adopted and adapted to fit a new cultural context. The exchange flowed in all directions. A Mesopotamian innovation for inlaying glass into ceremonial daggers might travel south to Egypt, inspiring jewelers there to create new forms of royal regalia. What were the long-term effects of this constant, quiet conversation? It created a shared technological language across vast distances. Artisans from different civilizations who would never meet were nonetheless participating in a unified wave of innovation, all sparked by the quest to master this celestial material. This early network of exchange, built around a substance from the stars, laid the foundational stones for the interconnected world we know today. The desert itself became the greatest guardian of this celestial treasure. For millions of years, the vast, arid silence of places like the Sahara acted as a perfect natural vault. The same harsh conditions that made life a struggle, the relentless sun and the near-total lack of rain, were precisely what kept the desert glass intact. In a wetter climate, groundwater and acidic soils would have slowly eroded the glass, clouding its clarity and dulling its sharp edges over centuries. But here, buried under shifting sands or resting openly on the gravel plains, the fragments were protected from chemical decay and physical wear. They waited in a state of suspended animation, as pristine as the day they were formed. This remarkable preservation is why archaeologists can pick up a tool today and see the same microscopic flaking patterns left by an artisan's hand thousands of years ago. The desert provided a clear, unbroken window into the past, yet this environment was not static. the climate of North Africa has swung between wet and dry phases over the millennia. During greener, more humid periods, the glass might have been obscured by vegetation or buried under layers of soil, effectively hidden from view. But when the droughts returned and the sands reclaimed the land, the glass would be revealed once more, scattered across the surface like a field of stars. This cyclical unveiling directly influenced its historical availability. A period of intense aridity might have suddenly exposed a rich new strewn field, triggering a gold rush of sorts as tribes moved in to collect the newly accessible resource. How did ancient people navigate this unpredictable landscape? Their strategies reveal a sophisticated adaptation. They developed a deep, generational knowledge of the desert's moods and geography. They knew which wadis or dry riverbeds were likely to concentrate the glass after a rare windstorm. They understood the patterns of the dunes, learning where the glass would be exposed on the hard, stable desert pavement between them. This was not a haphazard search, it was a targeted, efficient harvest. They learned to conserve the material, carefully curating their collections and reworking broken tools into new, smaller implements rather than simply discarding them. Their entire relationship with the glass was shaped by a profound respect for the desert that hid it and the cosmic event that created it, a partnership between human ingenuity and an environment designed for preservation. The timeline of desert glass is written not just in the glass itself, but in the soil that cradled it for millennia. Archaeologists use a suite of sophisticated techniques to read this temporal signature. When a desert glass tool is discovered nestled beside a charred piece of wood or a fragment of bone, radiocarbon dating can pinpoint the age of those organic materials, providing a clear timestamp for when the tool was last used or deposited. For artifacts found in contexts without organic remains, scientists turn to thermoluminescence. This method measures the tiny amount of light energy trapped within the crystalline structure of minerals that were heated along with the glass, either during its original formation or in a subsequent fire. By measuring this trapped light, researchers can determine the last time the material was exposed to intense heat, often correlating directly with its creation by human hands. These combined methods paint a remarkably consistent picture. The very first human use of desert glass stretches back into the deep shadows of the Paleolithic era, a time when our ancestors were nomadic hunter-gatherers. They were the ones who first recognized its superior edge and collected it from the desert pavement. This tradition continued unbroken through the Neolithic period, as societies began to settle and practice agriculture, and reached a brilliant peak during the Bronze Age, when empires rose and demanded the finest materials for their elites. For example, tools excavated from Egyptian predynastic sites, dating back to around 4000 BCE, show that this material was a cornerstone of technology long before the first pyramid was ever conceived. By plotting these dates on a vast timeline and correlating them with major geological and societal shifts, a fascinating pattern emerges. The use of desert glass did not simply continue, it evolved. Its peak demand often aligned with periods of intense technological innovation or profound cultural change. When societies began to urbanize and social hierarchies solidified, the demand for desert glass skyrocketed, not just for practical tools but for the status symbols that defined power. It was during the rise of the first great pharaohs that we see the most exquisite ceremonial daggers and ornate amulets being crafted from this celestial stone. This long-term relevance across such vast stretches of time is what makes desert glass so extraordinary. It was not a material that was discovered, used, and then forgotten. It was a constant, a technological thread woven through the entire fabric of ancient human development, adapting seamlessly from the hand of a Paleolithic hunter to the workshop of a royal Egyptian jeweler. What does this enduring relationship tell us about our ancestors' ability to recognize and preserve a truly transformative resource? The precise spot where the cosmic hammer fell remains a ghost in the landscape. For Libyan desert glass, we have the glass itself, scattered across thousands of square kilometers, but the main crater, the ground zero of that ancient cataclysm, has vanished. Despite scanning the Sahara with satellites capable of spotting ancient riverbeds buried under the sand, the definitive scar has not been found. This absence fuels a compelling theory that the glass was not formed by a direct impact but by an airburst. Imagine a meteorite exploding in the atmosphere, not with a punch into the ground, but with a vast, scorching shockwave of heat radiating outward. This fire from the sky could have melted the surface of the desert below without leaving a traditional crater, instantly creating the glass field we find today. Yet even this explanation is haunted by other, stranger details. Why do some fragments possess a rare, almost smoky green hue, while others are a pure, clear gold? And what are we to make of the microscopic diamonds found trapped within its structure? These tiny, supremely hard crystals only form under pressures of immense violence, far greater than a typical impact. Their presence suggests a formation process of almost unimaginable force, a puzzle within a puzzle that pushes the limits of our understanding. For the ancient peoples who collected this glass, these variations were not scientific curiosities, they were divine signatures. A green-tinted piece might be seen as a tear from a different god. A fragment containing hidden, sparkling points of light could be interpreted as captured starlight. The very mysteries that baffle us today would have only deepened the material's sacred aura, making it an object of both desire and profound caution. Modern expeditions into the most isolated deserts are, in a way, continuing this ancient tradition of the quest. Scientists now brave the same harsh environments, not guided by myth, but by satellite data and radiation detectors, yet they are driven by that same fundamental human urge to understand the profound power locked within the glass. Their work directly builds upon the observations of those early collectors, transforming whispered legends into testable hypotheses. Each unsolved question is a bridge across time, connecting our high-tech labs to the moment a wandering nomad first picked up a shimmering stone and wondered at the story it had to tell. The golden glass of Libya is not a solitary wonder. Scattered across the globe in the starkest of deserts are other fragments of cosmic glass, each with its own story of celestial violence. In the high, dry plains of the Atacama Desert in South America, impact glasses bear the scars of a different ancient strike. Far to the south, on the island of Tasmania, lies Darwin glass, a greenish, pitted material formed by a meteorite impact nearly 800,000 years ago. And in the vast steppes of Kazakhstan, small, teardrop-shaped pieces of glass known as ergosites tell of another monumental impact event. While these materials may differ in their precise chemical makeup, their origin story is the same, a testament to a universal process that has scarred our planet repeatedly. This global distribution forces us to reconsider the uniqueness of the Libyan experience. If the skies have rained fire upon deserts everywhere, did human cultures everywhere take notice? The evidence, while tantalizing, is often like the glass itself, fragmented and sparse. In Australia, for instance, archaeologists have long pondered whether Aboriginal peoples utilized the local desert glass found in the outback. While definitive proof, like a clearly worked tool found in an ancient campsite, remains elusive, the possibility is strong. These were cultures with an intimate, generational knowledge of their land. It is difficult to believe they would have ignored a material that was so visibly different from the surrounding stone, one that could be shaped into a sharper cutting edge than anything else available. The scarcity of evidence may simply reflect the fragility of the glass itself, or the fact that these nomadic groups used it, exhausted it, and moved on, leaving little trace. These independent discoveries around the world reveal a powerful pattern. They suggest that when presented with a superior natural resource, human societies, regardless of their isolation from one another, often arrive at the same conclusions. A piece of impact glass in the hands of an indigenous Australian hunter and a piece of Libyan desert glass in the hands of an Egyptian priest were separated by an entire world, yet they both recognized the material's inherent power. One might have valued it for its practical edge in survival, the other for its connection to the divine, but the fundamental recognition of its special nature was a universal human response. This global perspective teaches us that innovation is not always about invention, but often about perception. It is about looking at a strange, glittering object on the ground and seeing not just a rock, but a tool, a weapon, a jewel, or a piece of a god. The parallel journeys of these different cultures, all harnessing their own local pieces of the cosmos, underscore a shared drive to understand our world by using the very best materials it and the heavens have to offer. A tiny crack, invisible to the naked eye, can threaten an artifact that has survived for millennia. Inside the climate-controlled vault of a modern museum, a conservator works with the steady hands of a surgeon. Their tools are not hammers and chisels, but soft brushes, delicate probes, and advanced imaging scanners. Their mission is to wage a silent war against time itself, protecting fragile desert glass objects from the slow decay brought on by humidity, temperature shifts, and even the oils from a human touch. These fragments are not just stones, they are time capsules, and their preservation is a race against irreversible loss. Each object undergoes a meticulous conservation process. Conservators might use specialized adhesives to stabilize a hairline fracture in a ceremonial blade, or create a custom foam cradle to support a carved amulet, ensuring it rests without stress. The environment is everything. Storage rooms are kept at a constant, cool temperature with strictly controlled humidity levels, because even the slightest moisture can cloud the glass's pristine clarity over centuries. But the threats are not only environmental. The very allure of desert glass makes it a target for looters who ravage archaeological sites, tearing artifacts from their context and erasing their stories forever. To combat this, museums and governments have enacted powerful legal safeguards. International agreements like the UNESCO Convention strictly regulate the cross-border trade of unprovenance antiquities. A piece of desert glass cannot simply appear on the open market. It must have a documented history, a passport proving it was excavated legally. This legal framework makes it incredibly difficult for looted material to be sold, cutting off the financial incentive for theft. Beyond the law, there is a powerful push for public education. Museums now create detailed digital catalogs, using high-resolution 3D scans to create a permanent virtual record of every artifact. These digital twins allow researchers from across the globe to study an object without ever risking its safety, and they enable the public to explore these treasures through interactive online exhibits. Why pour such immense resources into preserving these fragments? Because each one is a unique key. The precise location where a tool was found can tell us about ancient trade winds. The residue left on a blade can reveal the last meal it prepared. If we lose the object, we lose the data, and we sever a direct line to the people who held it. This conservation is not about locking treasures away in a dark vault. It is about keeping the dialogue with our past alive, ensuring that future generations, with technologies we cannot yet imagine, will still have the evidence they need to ask new questions and hear the ancient stories these celestial stones still yearn to tell. That ancient capacity to recognize a superior material is a powerful lesson for our own time. The story of desert glass is not locked in the past. It actively inspires the future of material science. Researchers in laboratories today are not just studying this glass as a historical artifact. They are analyzing its molecular structure to understand how it became so remarkably tough and resilient. The secret lies in its rapid cooling and unique internal bonds, a recipe written by a cosmic event. Scientists are now experimenting with recreating these conditions to synthesize new classes of advanced ceramics and composite materials. Imagine a protective coating for a spacecraft designed to withstand the impact of micrometeorites, its blueprint drawn from the same structure that allowed desert glass to survive millions of years in the desert. Or consider impact-resistant glass for buildings, engineered not in a modern factory, but inspired by a substance forged in a cataclysm. This is biomimicry on a geological scale, where we are learning from one of nature's most extreme and successful experiments. The ancient artisans who carefully collected every sliver of glass were practicing a form of sustainability we are only now fully appreciating. They did not waste this precious resource. A broken tool was not discarded. It was knapped down into a smaller blade, then a scraper, then a drill bit, in a continuous cycle of reuse. This mirrors the core principle of our modern circular economy, where the goal is to eliminate waste and keep materials in use for as long as possible. Their pragmatic conservation in the face of scarcity offers a profound model for our own era of resource constraints. How can we apply this ancient insight? It challenges us to look at the materials we use every day and ask how we can design them for multiple lives, just as those early toolmakers did. The relevance of desert glass extends into the classroom, where it has become a perfect case study for interdisciplinary research. A geologist dates the impact, an archaeologist analyzes the tool-making techniques, a materials engineer tests its hardness, and a historian pieces together its trade routes. This collaborative approach breaks down the silos between fields, demonstrating that the biggest questions about our past and our future cannot be answered by one discipline alone. They remind us that true innovation rarely comes from a single flash of genius, but from the patient, observant work of understanding the world around us, whether that world is a vast desert plain or a laboratory bench. The ultimate lesson of desert glass is one of perspective. It teaches us to see potential where others might only see a rock, and to understand that the most advanced technology is sometimes nothing more than nature's own genius, recognized and harnessed by a curious mind. That glittering fragment of desert glass could never power a laser or focus a death ray. These popular myths, often spun from speculative fiction, suggest our ancestors possessed a technology that rivaled our own, a lost science powered by celestial stones. The scientific evidence, however, paints a different and far more impressive picture. There is no data, no archaeological find, no residue analysis that supports the existence of such advanced devices. The true story is not one of forgotten super science, but of profound human ingenuity. Consider the claim about lenses. A beautifully polished piece of desert glass could indeed concentrate sunlight to start a fire, a simple and effective use of its natural clarity. But this is a far cry from the intricate optical systems described in fantasy. Creating a functioning laser requires a precise understanding of light amplification and stimulated emission, concepts that were millennia beyond the grasp of any ancient civilization. The tools and workshops we have excavated show no evidence of the precision engineering needed for such devices. They show hearths for heat-treating stone and workbenches for flaking and grinding. Why do these captivating myths persist? They often arise from a desire to see our ancestors as more technologically advanced, or to insert a sense of mystery where a straightforward, brilliant adaptation already exists. The real marvel is that ancient peoples achieved so much with what they had. They did not need alien technology or lost energy crystals. They had sharp eyes, skilled hands, and the wisdom to recognize a superior material. They took a substance born from a cosmic cataclysm and integrated it perfectly into their lives, creating tools that fed their families and objects that connected them to their gods. Correcting these myths is not about dismissing the past, it is about honoring it authentically. It ensures we appreciate the genuine, hard-won progress of humanity, a journey built on observation, experimentation, and a deep, resourceful connection to the world around them. By clearing away the fiction, we make room for a much grander truth. A modern archaeologist raises an antler hammer, its smooth curve a stark contrast to the raw fragment of desert glass resting on a leather pad. With a precise, controlled tap, a flake the size of a thumbnail springs free, its edge so fine it seems to vanish in the light. This is experimental archaeology in action, a field where scholars do not just study artifacts, they recreate them. By using the exact materials and methods of ancient craftspeople, they feel the resistance of the glass under their own hands and learn its unique language. The process is not easy. Desert glass, for all its sharpness, is unforgiving. A strike a millimeter off target or with just a fraction too much force, and the entire piece can shatter into useless splinters. This delicate dance reveals the immense skill embedded in every ancient tool we unearth. The artisan who made that ceremonial dagger thousands of years ago was not merely strong, they were a master of touch, possessing a deep, intuitive understanding of how this celestial material would fracture. These experiments measure more than just success or failure. Researchers time how long it takes to produce a functional blade. They test the sharpness of the resulting edge against modern scalpel blades, and they analyze the waste flakes to understand the economy of movement. The data is clear. A desert glass tool in the right hands could achieve a cutting efficiency that surpassed nearly every other material available at the time. Yet this superiority came with a cost. Its brittle nature meant it was less durable for heavy chopping tasks than a sturdy flint axe. This explains why we so often find hybrid toolkits. A community would use tough, reliable flint for the brute work of woodworking, but would reserve their precious, razor-sharp desert glass for the fine, precise tasks like skinning game, carving intricate patterns, or performing ritual sacrifices where a clean cut held spiritual significance. What does this division of labor tell us about ancient societies? It suggests specialized roles. Not every person in a village would have been trusted with the difficult and risky work of knapping this valuable material. The craft was likely passed down through apprenticeships from a master to a select few, ensuring that the knowledge of how to speak to the stone was preserved across generations. The time investment was significant. Just collecting the raw glass required a perilous desert journey, and then the knapping itself demanded hours of concentrated, patient labor. When you hold an ancient desert glass artifact, you are not just holding a tool, you are holding days of a skilled person's life, a tangible piece of their focused intention and hard-won expertise. These recreations breathe life into the silent objects in museum cases, transforming them from relics back into the extensions of human hands that they once were. The echoes of desert glass technology resonated long after the fall of the pharaohs. In the workshops of the Roman Empire, artisans experimented with a variety of natural materials to create their own glass. While they primarily used sand and soda, their familiarity with substances like obsidian and rare fragments of fulgurites, glass formed by lightning strikes, suggests they understood the principles of vitrification. This is the process of transforming a material into a glass-like state through intense heat. a phenomenon they could observe directly in the desert glass they sometimes collected as curiosities. The knowledge gained from centuries of knapping and polishing that celestial stone did not vanish, it simply transformed. The understanding of how silica could be fused and shaped informed the earliest experiments in glassblowing, pushing artisans to seek more controllable methods to achieve that prized transparency and strength. The legacy of desert glass is not a straight line, but a branching tree of innovation. The same fundamental grasp of high-temperature processes that made desert glass valuable later fueled advances in metallurgy. An artisan smelting copper would have recognized the same transformative power of fire that once fused desert sand. This foundational knowledge became a building block, a crucial piece of human understanding about how the world could be reshaped with heat and skill. Centuries later, this accumulated wisdom would feed directly into the furnaces of the Industrial Revolution. The men who designed the first blast furnaces and the crucibles for making steel were standing on the shoulders of every ancient artisan who first learned to read the secrets locked inside stone. We can trace this unbroken thread in the mineral collections of European royalty, where specimens of desert glass were displayed alongside early synthetic glass and new metal alloys, a testament to a continuous fascination with materials born from fire. The journey from a cosmic impact in the Sahara to a steam-powered factory in Manchester is longer than it seems, connected by the slow, patient accumulation of practical knowledge. How many other forgotten materials waiting in plain sight hold the same potential to spark the next great leap forward? Every artifact removed from the desert carries a silent story beyond its physical form. The ethical dilemma facing modern archaeology is a profound one, a constant balancing act between the hunger for knowledge and the duty to preserve heritage. When a looter's pit scars a remote site, the immediate loss is the artifact itself, but the deeper, more devastating theft is the context. A desert glass scraper found in a controlled excavation, lying next to a hearth with charcoal remains, can be radiocarbon dated to reveal its age. That same scraper, ripped from the ground by a treasure hunter and sold on the black market, becomes a beautiful but mute object. Its connection to a specific time, a specific culture, and a specific human activity is severed forever. This commercial looting is an act of historical vandalism that erases chapters from the human story before they can even be read. The damage extends beyond history into the living environment. The fragile desert ecosystem, a delicate crust of life that takes centuries to form, can be obliterated by the tires of unauthorized vehicles or the haphazard digging of those who see only profit. Why should a few pieces of glass matter against the vastness of the Sahara? Because these sites are non-renewable resources. Once disturbed, the intricate tapestry of clues they hold is unraveled for all time. This has led to the development of strong international ethical guidelines, championed by organizations like UNESCO. These principles advocate for a radical shift in how we approach the past. Instead of foreign expeditions simply extracting treasures, the modern standard calls for collaborative research. In Libya, for instance, this means international teams now work alongside local archaeologists, training them in advanced techniques and ensuring that the discoveries and their benefits remain within the community. This partnership transforms archaeology from a form of extraction into a form of exchange. Local knowledge, passed down through generations about the land and its history, is valued as highly as any satellite survey. When a community has a stake in its own heritage, it becomes the most powerful guardian against looting. These ethical considerations are not just bureaucratic hurdles, they are the foundation of responsible scholarship. They force us to ask not just what we can learn from an object, but what our responsibility is to the people and the place it came from. It is a holistic approach that recognizes a simple truth. the desert glass is not merely a specimen to be owned, but a legacy to be understood and protected for every generation to come. The next chapter in the story of desert glass will be written by beams of light in high-tech laboratories. Advanced imaging techniques like synchrotron radiation microtomography can now peer deep inside a fragment without ever touching it, creating a three-dimensional map of its internal structure. This allows scientists to trace the paths of microscopic shock waves and identify tiny inclusions of extraterrestrial material, revealing the precise sequence of events during that millionth of a second impact. On a planetary scale, space-based surveys using satellites equipped with hyperspectral sensors are scanning the world's deserts from orbit. These instruments detect the unique light signature of silica-rich glass, potentially pinpointing entirely new deposits in the most remote and inaccessible regions, deposits that ancient traders could never have reached. These tools are not just about finding more glass, they are about finally answering the fundamental question of its violent birth. Was it a direct hit or a devastating airburst? The data collected could settle this ancient debate once and for all. This celestial material may also hold the key to future technologies. Its unique molecular structure, forged under extreme pressure, makes it an excellent candidate for radiation shielding on spacecraft or around nuclear facilities. The same toughness that gave an ancient blade its lasting edge could inspire a new generation of high-precision surgical tools or durable industrial coatings. The research is becoming profoundly interdisciplinary. Climatologists are now working with archaeologists to model the shifting sands of the Sahara over millennia. Their goal is to understand how periods of extreme drought or unexpected rainfall exposed or buried desert glass fields, directly influencing when and where ancient civilizations could access this vital resource. This historical perspective offers a powerful analogy for our own era of climate change and resource scarcity, showing how environmental shifts have always dictated the rise and fall of technological opportunities. These collaborative projects promise to uncover lost chapters of human history. By analyzing the chemical fingerprint of glass from different time periods, we could trace the emergence and collapse of specific trade routes, perhaps even identifying previously unknown connections between cultures. What if a deposit in a forgotten corner of the desert reveals a trade network that stretched thousands of years earlier than we ever believed? The potential breakthroughs on the horizon are not merely academic. They challenge us to see the ingenuity of our ancestors not as a primitive prelude, but as a sophisticated and sustainable form of material science. The next discovery could completely reshape our understanding of prehistoric innovation and its startling relevance for the world we are building today. Desert glass was never just a rock, it was a conversation with the cosmos. This journey from a cosmic impact to the hands of kings reveals a profound truth about human progress. Our ancestors did not stumble upon this material by accident and simply use it. They recognized its potential with a clarity that still resonates. They saw a stone that could be sharper, more beautiful, and more sacred than anything their world offered, and they built entire systems of technology, trade, and belief around it. This was not primitive survival, it was a sophisticated form of material science, driven by observation and a deep desire to harness the best the world had to offer. The legacy of desert glass is not locked away in a museum case, it is a timeless lesson in innovation. It teaches us that the next great leap forward may not come from inventing something entirely new, but from looking at the world with fresh eyes and seeing the hidden potential in the materials we already have. What ordinary substance around you right now might hold a similar key to the future? If you have enjoyed unraveling this ancient mystery with me, I invite you to join our community. Subscribe for more deep dives into history's hidden stories and share your own thoughts on desert glass in the comments below. Your perspective helps us all see the past in a new light, keeping these ancient wonders alive and relevant for everyone.